Hey, everybody. This is your second time seeing me today. I know that is really, really annoying. No one wants to see me that much in one day. But I'm here with a good friend of mine that I am super excited to be with anytime I get to be with her.
Wow.
It is Holistic Hilda.
Hey.
So Hilda is, she works for the Weston A Foundation. She runs their podcast called the Wise Traditions Podcast. And do you do other stuff for them as well, Hilda?
Actually, I help them with the monthly members only Wise Conversations kind of webinar thing. And yeah, I do other stuff too. It's a lot of fun. And then I've got my Holistic Hilda business where I have a YouTube channel and I'm kind of traveling the world to learn about ancestral health practices.
Yeah. And you're a podcast coach.
Yes.
But you and I were just in a podcast convention a couple weeks ago, before we all got quarantined. And you said, I think it was live on a live that we did together on YouTube, or I could be wrong. You had made a statement about where you see yourself being in the future. Is that something that's out there on the interwebs yet? Do you know what I'm talking about?
My big dream, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's out there, but I don't mind putting it out there because I figure if you have a big dream, just like vocalize it and then it might help you get there better and other people might be able to lend a hand. So yeah, I'll just say, like, I want to be the Anthony Bourdain of wellness. I want to lift up not just food and culture, but ancestral health practices that can benefit us. And of course, I'm inspired by Dr. Weston Price. And if you don't know who he is, visit westonaprice.org and check him out. You guys, he was this amazing dentist researcher from the 1930s who wanted to see for himself, like, how are these people so healthy? In this magazine, he got National Geographic and he's like, they look great. Their teeth are beautiful. They've got great posture. They were real fertile. And he's like, what's up? Because at the same time as he was seeing these people in the magazine, he was treating children and others in his clinic. And he was like, oh my gosh, they've got cavities. They've got, dental decay and all kinds of deformities. And he was just kind of scratching his head. So he took it upon himself in the 1930s to travel the world. And so the Weston Price Foundation, established in his name, kind of took the 11 things that all these different diets had in common and suggested that we could live this way. Like everybody all over the world that was very healthy and hale and hearty avoided refined and denatured foods. So foods where they take ingredients out or try to cram some back in, like breakfast cereals, and so there's just all these wonderful principles. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this, but I also basically want to see for myself. So I've gone to Peru and Kenya and Australia on a quest to learn more about healthy living. And so I'm also applying it to my life and sharing what I know with others. So.
Yeah. And your podcast is one of my biggest sources of learning all the time. So, and I love anytime we're together because I realize I have a lot of knowledge, and it's so much fun to talk with someone like you. And to realize that, you're asking me questions as much as I'm asking you questions, which is so much fun for me. And so
you know so much. You taught me about egg boxing when we were together.
I did. And that was learned from Peter Attia. So I can't take credit for the egg boxing. Dr. Peter Attia is a brilliant man. And it's like a 20-minute video of him explaining egg boxing. He is so serious.
Oh my God.
He's taking those eggs. And he's not messing around at all. So the reason I reached out to you is because on Monday, when I threw this out there that I was going to start trying to give people be of service to people, a friend of mine, Becky, said that she wanted to hear more about vitamin A. And I have I believe she might have gotten that because she had just possibly saw you posted a podcast on that.
Yeah.
So vitamin A, right?
Okay, I'm just going to kick it off by saying vitamin A is a vitamin that's very dear to my heart. And that might sound kind of funny, but let me explain why. Literally near to my heart. When I was born with a birth defect. And the doctors didn't think I was going to live very long. I was born with a hole in my heart between the lower two ventricles. And so the doctors monitored me as a child. They're like, you can't be too active. We need to see if this is going to mess you up. And so basically when I was 9, they cracked me open and performed open heart surgery. And I'm so thankful. But I found out later that vitamin A is a great protector against birth defects. And if my mother had only known, she might have consumed more vitamin A rich foods and been able to have protected me. But that wasn't the case, and that's okay. But as you know, I'm on this quest to help everybody live their best lives. So I want to just like shout from the rooftops, take vitamin A, eat more vitamin A. And so interestingly, traditional people didn't analyze their food for its nutrient content. They just ate a very nutrient-rich diet.
So they didn't have like calorie trackers and stuff.
No, no, there wasn't all this chronometer stuff, all these things that could kind of parse down all the nutrients in their food. But they knew instinctively to consume more of these foods, and especially more of these foods when they were in the childbearing years, I will say. Yeah. So what I'm talking about is foods that some of which might sound a little unusual to us today. So I'll start with the ones that are more common. Egg yolks are actually a great source of vitamin A. And fish, especially fish eggs and even fish eyes, if you dare. I had one in Puerto Rico not too long ago, but that's not a common part of my diet. But
so that's kind of interesting because like the eyes are where like everybody says vitamin A helps out with nighttime vision, right?
Oh, so, my gosh, you're so right.
But isn't that something that adds up, right?
Yeah, exactly. So good point. Like heals like. That's an ancient wisdom. So if somebody had a poor heart, they would try to feed them heart of an animal. You know what I mean? So if you have poor vision, but actually other symptoms of vitamin A deficiency include like bumpy skin on the back of your arm. Yes, poor night vision, a problem with fertility, and maybe weight gain, a dry eye, even some digestive issues. A lot of things can be linked to it. So,
you said dry eye, so that's not mucus, but like mucous membranes is also a vitamin A problem, right? So to get very personal with the ladies out there, dry things can be improved with vitamin A, with real food vitamin A. So that's a real thing, that affects a household.
So I just interviewed nutritionist and dietitian Pam Schoenfeld on the Wise Traditions podcast, and that episode was called Vitamin A Amazing. Why? Why did we bring that up at this time? Because vitamin A is an immune system supporter. It is critical for good health. And if you pay attention to nothing else, this is a very important time to be considering what we're ingesting. So I know it's tempting to grab, carbs off the shelf and just kind of chill and take it easy. But now more than ever, we need to support our immune system. So consuming more egg yolks. Yes, cheese and butter, but also the organ meats, which are a little unusual for us. Liver, kidneys, cod liver oil. These foods are so beneficial to our system. And this is the thing. Some people might say, well, I'd rather eat a couple eggs. That's fine. Liver is probably the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. So don't be afraid of it. You guys, I don't cook a lot of liver, but I eat a lot of liverwurst. And when I can't get liver and, I literally can't get my hands on it, or I just haven't had any this week, I will take desiccated liver pills. I get some liver from Ancestral Supplements. There are ways to pour us up. But I do advise staying away from synthetic vitamins, which are concocted in a laboratory, and look for real food supplements, because there are substances in the real food that you can't replicate no matter how hard you try in a laboratory. So I'm really big on vitamin A. But getting back to your point, Mike, real quick, for women, yes, we can have trouble with vaginal dryness and dry eye and kind of all mucus that is needed. And actually, the mucus can be virucidal, which means it helps combat viruses. So when you have a runny nose and a lot of mucus, don't disdain it. Like, that's helping you. That's nature and your body helping you. You want that here and you want that in other places for a lot of reasons.
I always tell people, like, coconut oil, it's great. You just always have coconut oil in your house. It's great for everything. And they go, oh, yeah. And I go, no, it's great for everything.
I didn't know we were going to get that personal, but yeah, it's true.
It happens with me, right?
I know. But actually, yes, we use it for massages. Like, I just gave my husband a massage today, and I use the coconut oil. Like, it's antimicrobial, it's antiviral, and antifungal all in one. Yeah. And actually, Sally did recommend, speaking of immune stuff, you guys, if you want to boost your immunity.
And this is Sally from
Weston A, the head of the Weston Price Foundation. She recommended eating a tablespoon of coconut oil a day. So you can mix it in your bulletproof coffee. You can put it in a soup. And we just can't get enough of these kind of activator of fat-soluble vitamins that are beneficial to us. Even Dr. Price in the 1930s was like, wow, there's something to these fats that they're carrying, these vitamins that are so important. And I will just also add this, that if you eat a salad, you're like, okay, I'm going to have a really healthy smoothie right now. It's just all greens. Well, that's great. But your body can't actually access all of the nutrients in those greens if you don't have these fat soluble activators. So you want some coconut oil or some butter or something in there to help you kind of build your body, because it's almost like mortar for the bricks. You need both the minerals and you also need the vitamins, and especially vitamins A, D, E, and K.
Yeah. And with that, so I always put things on a spectrum of best to worst places to get things. And I know personally with vitamin A, from all that I've researched, there's just no better source than animal products, because they are the source of retinol. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the retinol source. And if you're trying to get vitamin A from vegetable and sweet potatoes and all these green matter, it's very difficult for the majority of us to actually, it's a pre-vitamin A form, I guess, the carotenoids and beta carotene. The body has to convert that. And not all of us have the genetic ability to convert that appropriately.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because some people are like, vitamin A, hooray, it's in carrots, it's in sweet potatoes, but it is actually exactly like you said, it's a precursor. So it's like not quite there yet. And it is difficult to convert. The variance in how much people can convert it depends. You might be able to convert like 30%, and my percentage might be lower or higher. But either way, if you really want it readily accessible, you really should go to the animal foods for sure.
Yeah, if I'm going to put I always use car part analogies. If I'm going to put a new fender on my car, I want to buy the fender and put it right on the car. A couple bolts, boom, you're on. I don't want to buy the sheet metal and make the fender. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of calories I'm burning just to get that to happen. A lot of energy it's being taken up that could go to my immune system. It could go to repairing. So why is it always a car analogy, right? I don't even like cars.
No, but I like it. That makes a lot of sense. Like, you actually, in this day and age, we're always going for convenience, right? Like, oh, I just want it already made. And so in this case, the way to get it ready made is to get it in those animal products. But when it comes to cooking, you do want to put some elbow grease into it, because the ready-made stuff isn't made with the same quality of ingredients, the same oils, and we're talking about these fats. Like, you need those things. You want the sustainably raised meat. You want the real saturated fats, not the partially hydrogenated oils and stuff that are so manipulated and highly extruded that aren't good for our bodies. So I love that analogy for getting it ready made from the animal source, but not going for the ready made convenient stuff on the grocery store shelf.
And I'm such a believer that it's so easy to cook the real stuff versus the pre-made stuff or the quick meals. They're just as long or longer to make than the slow traditional meals, because like I had liver right before we got on. I had deer liver. It was still whole, so I had to cut it up. That took me 1 minute, and then my skillet was hot in that time. I threw butter on. Usually I use tallow, but I've been really craving butter. And butter is great for vitamin A as well. Not a huge source, but a little bit. And D and K and I think it has some E in there. I could be wrong.
Yep.
But so you want that fat along with the vitamin A because it's fat soluble and it's so good. But I threw the liver on the skillet, and I'm one of those weirdos that just likes the taste of it. So I threw it on, and it was cooked in like a minute because I don't want to overcook my liver.
Yeah.
That is so much faster than turning on the oven, letting everything run, or throwing something in the microwave and letting it cook for 8 minutes. It was still faster than that.
Faster than if you called a pizza joint, we're like, hey, get me a pizza. And you guys, I lived with him. Don't get the wrong idea. I lived with Mike when we were staying at an Airbnb together down at the Podfest Multimedia Expo. And I watched him, and he was so good. Like, every morning he would cook up a lot of extra meat so you could have it for dinner that night or lunch that day. And he made it look like a snap. And the truth is, we overcomplicate things. And in this
so easy
time, you can just throw the meat on, go for it. And, he's big on the carnivore right now, which is awesome. But really, it doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And even if you add in vegetables to the way I do things, vegetables means that I just put one extra skillet on the stove. So I take frozen veggies because they're convenient and they're still fairly nutritious, and they don't go bad as fast as fresh vegetables. I will take those, cut up in the bag, put them in the skillet with a little bit of water, and it steams them if you put the lid on. 6-8 minutes later, they're cooked. Your meat's cooked in that time, your eggs, whatever might be, all done. Everything goes on the table all at once.
And I just have a little comment for any moms who are watching us right now and they're like, oh, they don't know, my kids won't eat veggies, or they only like chicken nuggets, it's got to be breaded. I have two things to say. One is, first of all, get them involved, because if they're helping you chop things up, they're more likely, I'm not saying 100%, but they're more likely to want to eat it because they had a hand in making it. And number two, they will eat what you put in front of them sooner or later because they'll get hungry.
Yeah.
So Natasha Campbell McBride, who I've also interviewed on the podcast, she's a wonderful author of the Gut and Psychology Syndrome diet. And she talks to parents who have to put their kids on a very rigorous, strict diet that's just like bone broth and maybe an egg, like hardly anything. Yeah. And some parents are like, oh no, my kid won't eat that. And she's like, oh yes, they will. Oh yeah,
they don't starve.
So if you're like, guess what? We can't get nuggets today. And if you want to, maybe, okay, if you want to wean them off it, an idea is to say on Saturday we'll go, but we have to eat other things all day, week long. And so what does that do? That gets them used to eating these other foods. Then you have to follow through and give them whatever you want on Saturday. Or maybe you can actually bread them with pork rinds at home one night, you know what I mean? And surprise them. But don't believe that you're not in charge still in your home, because you certainly are. So get them involved and stretch their palate. And if they're hungry enough, they'll eat the stuff.
Yeah. And I don't have kids. So anytime I say something like this, people just look at me cross-eyed and say, oh, you just don't know. Listen, this is the life I live. I'm not going to change it for some little 30-pound person that walks in my house. And my nieces know that when they spend the night. We do exactly what you said, is we cook with them. We have fun with them. And I'll tell my brother and sister-in-law what they were eating. And they always say, no way they ate that. And I'm like, they love it at our house. And they're like good eating kids. They like having their veggies and fruits. But the things that they eat at Uncle Mike's and Aunt Kim's is definitely things they don't normally like. Right. So it's always
one thing I want to add too about liver. Okay, yes, liver has a specific taste, right? So what I do is I get food from a farm, and all you have to do is go to farmmatch.com to figure out what farms are near you.
Yeah.
I get my food from a farm, and sometimes I can get ground beef with organ meats mixed in.
Yeah.
So my family doesn't even know. They don't even ask me. I'm surprised because I'm like, I can tell this burger has a gamey taste, but they don't say anything because it's just all mixed in. Or mix it in spaghetti sauce or make a meatloaf with it. It's a great way to get these organs in your kids without them knowing it.
Yeah. And Becky that I told you wanted to hear about vitamin A, she has a little thing she put up. Sprinkle desiccated liver on her eggs and no one even notices.
Cheers, my friend.
That is terrific. You and Becky would be best of friends. You really would be. So she and her husband do the praise and worship at church, and you had a long career in that as well. And we have a good tribe. We have a good.
Becky, follow me at Holistic Hilda on Instagram, and we'll connect. DM me.
That's right. Yeah, reach out to her, Becky. She is very accessible. So, one last thing I wanted to cover. You crushed all of these things. I had it all on the list, and you hit them before I even asked you. We did mention you want to have like the helper vitamins, kind of, which is vitamin D and the vitamins that come from fat, right? So vitamin D, vitamin K. A great way to cook things is with butter, grass-fed butter, tallow, lard. People don't realize those are healthy for us. So you do not want to cook stuff in the vegetable oils, right?
Oh gosh, no. That they call them vegetable oils, but they're really like industrial seed oils. If they called them seed oils, everyone would be like, what? But soybean or rapeseed, like they're just really going through this process that our ancestors would never have been able to get the oil out. And Sally Fallon Morell, the head of the foundation, has told me that when the oil comes out at first, it's literally like a black gunk that would be so unpalatable if we could see it in its first initial stage. But what do? They deodorize it. They keep processing it. They colorize it. They do things so that we won't, turn our noses up at it. And then they sell it to us as if it were good for us. But truly, it's not. And the thing about these saturated fats we've been talking about, for example, lard is a great vehicle for vitamin D. And so a lot of these saturated fats have just the right balance of fats, of vitamins. So A, for example, I've heard it online a little bit that people are like, oh, you can get vitamin A toxicity. I'm afraid. Well, you don't have to be afraid if you're eating these foods because it comes in just the right balance. Like A and D in cod liver oil, A and D in butter, like they're balanced. And so don't be afraid of getting your vitamins from real food. I can't emphasize that, enough.
Yeah. That's terrific. And that was the second question I had for you to finish us out was the whole, everybody's so scared of vitamin A deficiency, or I'm sorry, vitamin A toxicity. But even if you're using synthetic vitamin A, I think the limit is pretty darn high still. And I don't recommend synthetic vitamin A at all. I don't recommend synthetic vitamin D at all. I recommend eating salmon and egg yolks and butter for your vitamin D and lard. And I recommend eating, if you can't eat liver, eat your egg yolks. If you can't eat liver, for instance, poultry. One of the things I heard on the podcast was poultry liver actually is packaged perfectly with vitamin D and vitamin A. And I know personally, poultry liver is very mild and it's very easy to eat. You can mix that into a few things, but you can eat that if you're not used to it. That's one of those ones you cut it in little chunks, hit the skillet with it, and just throw it back like a supplement. And pretend that you're not even eating, just supplement. So
yeah, and there's a recipe on the westinaprice.org website also that is like chicken livers wrapped in bacon. And I have both at home. I haven't made this yet, but I'm like, that sounds like a super way to try to get these in. If you're like, who doesn't love bacon, right? So
prosciutto is great for that too, right?
What is?
Prosciutto.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it gets nice and crispy, but still you can bend it still really well, and yeah.
Thanks for that. So yeah, so there are ways to stretch our palate and mix things in and just try something new. I mean, we're talking about helping kids get familiar with these foods and try them, but maybe sometimes we just need to as well.
Yeah, agreed. We just have to. I use this one sparingly, but I use it. You're an adult. Pull up your big boy pants and do it. Right. Right. Eventually it's gonna start sinking in and your body's gonna crave it. So I didn't have a small portion. I probably had 8 ounces of liver. And when I'm craving liver, I'll have 4 to 8 ounces every day until I don't want it anymore. So
good. And that's a good point to listen to our bodies, just to address the vitamin A toxicity a little bit more too. Like I think with any foods, they might not sit well. Didn't you tell me when we were together that you're not doing a lot of eggs right now?
I'm not doing any eggs. And
because you're paying attention to what works for you. And so I think in the same way, if somebody's like, gosh, I keep eating this, they say it's good, but it doesn't feel good to me. Listen to your body. There's a lot of bio-individuality where something that works for you might not work for me. And I'm a different size. I'm a different gender. So pay attention to the own signals your body is giving you.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I tell people, if you are bloated, if you're gassy, if you're having any symptom of any kind after a meal, it's the food. You literally just shove something in your mouth. What else would it be? So then you have to start looking at the food and see, okay, do I have an autoimmune issue? Because if so, it's very likely certain plants. Did I have just a meal of meat and cheese? Okay, it's probably the cheese. Are eggs in the meal? Am I having some digestive issues? It could be the eggs. That's a 50-50 one there for some people. But chances are, if you have bloating, it is dairy, grains, and vegetables. Vegetables being the last one on that list. I'm the guy fortunate enough that I have enough burdens that it's vegetables for me. So God gives me a lot of burdens so that I have to dive deeper and figure it out for other people. So, which I love. I mean, it sucks when you have to say I'm no longer eating eggs, but that's only for cycles for me. I cut them out for a little bit, bring them back in. So, but Hilda, you are so vibrant and like you are just the epitome of what people want to look like on the Weston A. Price diet, because I always say it's an ancestral approach. Yeah. On that ancestral umbrella. If you're healthy, then I recommend Weston A. Price. If you have some other issues, then you got to go strict one way, go strict another way. Maybe you fast a couple days. Maybe you do intermittent fasting. Maybe you are very vegetable based. Maybe you're very meat based. It always has to fall under that ancestral umbrella, in my opinion.
That's absolutely right. And I have to say, we used to say, oh, it's a wise traditions diet. Living this way is a wise traditions diet. We don't call it that anymore because it's just like you said, if people go carnivore or they want to go more plant-based, they can still follow some of these principles. Just again, look on the website to see, but they include things like, eating salt. Our ancestors love salt. It's really good for alleviating anxiety. It actually helps you sleep better. Take a pinch of salt right before bed, put it under your tongue. Like, there's so many benefits, and eating nutrient dense foods and so forth. So, I don't want people to feel like, oh, I'm not going to eat that way because of this. You can always find eating fermented foods, something in the principles that you can apply for a healthier life. But thank you. I just feel so grateful that I stumbled across this stuff a while ago.
I know, it's so cool. I love your story and your background, and I could have you on 100 more times. So everybody that's watched this or that will watch this, make sure you reach out to me and tell me all the other things you want to talk about with Hilda, because she's one of my favorite people to chat with.
Oh, I would love to do this again, Mike. You are awesome. Yeah. We're both learners on this journey, you guys. We're not pretending to be this big experts, but like you, Mike, I've done some research. I've done some deep dives. I've traveled the world to find out more. And whatever we learn, we just want to bring to people. So,
Amen. So, Hilda, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you for tuning in and watching this. And please listen to the Wise Traditions podcast, and just tell Hilda how much you love all of her information, because it's changed my life in so many ways. So
my pleasure to be on here. And you guys, we want the best for everybody, especially at this time. Stay safe, stay well, take in these foods that are rich in vitamin A.
Amen. And God bless everybody.
Same. Bye.